Hi lovelies, happy Tuesday. How are you today? If you're watching or listening, can you just give a little like or a little comment down below so that I can say hello? So I have just been for a lovely walk in what started off as really dry and then started off as really heavy rain. But actually it's so nice to be out in the rain again, just to hear it in the woods and just to be back outside in nature after what has been a really busy start to the year. So as I always teach all of my mums to be and my new mums, is you've got to top your own cup up first. So not only have I topped my own cup up first, but I also just took that lovely walk this morning to make sure that I can give you my very best. So I promised that today I was going to talk about 5 of the most common pregnancy worries. But actually, while I was walking, I thought, I don't want to talk about 5 of the most common pregnancy worries because chances are you'll be talking about those already and you'll be hearing them from lots of other people. What I would really love to talk about is 5 of the most common pregnancy worries that nobody talks about, because I think these are much more useful for you. They're much more raw, much more honest, and these are some of the things that people will say to me in private, whether that's on a Facebook Messenger, whether it's in the prenatal snug, or whether it's couples that I'm working with privately for hypnobirthing or prenatal yoga. These conversations are difficult for people, they're challenging, they're emotional, and so often they're not the first conversations that people go to. People will chit-chat about the nursery and about their size and whether it's their first baby or their second baby, but some of these conversations are really soul-bearing and you have to wear your heart in your sleeve to be able to have them. So I figured that that was going to be a lot more useful for you today. So let's think of 5 of the most common pregnancy worries that nobody talks about. So number 1, is my baby going to be okay? People are petrified to have this conversation with anybody else. They don't want to be the negative person, they don't want to be the fearful person, they don't want to be the person in the room talking about the thing that nobody else wants to talk about, even if that's online. And so this anxiety, this background worry can actually be quite consuming if you haven't got a space to take it to and you haven't got somebody there to be able to support you. So what can you do if you're constantly worrying, is my baby going to be okay? Well, obviously you can have your scans like normal, the ones that you're already in the pipeline for, if you like, in the system for. You can also choose to have extra scans if that's something that you want to do. You can also, at a really day-to-day level, just monitor your baby's movements. Make sure that they are moving in a way that feels normal to you for them, and also that they are consistently doing their own kind of rhythm. So we used to talk a lot about every kick counts, but you don't necessarily need to count the number of kicks. What you just need to know is your baby's rhythm and whether or not they are out of rhythm. Reduced movements can sometimes mean that your baby is in distress or that your baby is a bit poorly. And so really being able to just monitor the movement and to make sure that you're paying attention. And one of the things that's really important, I'm just going to turn my heater off 2 seconds, it's too warm. So one of the things that's really important is that if you're stressed and if you're rushing around a lot, you might not notice some of your baby's movements. Mums will often say to me after prenatal yoga or during hypnobirthing, oh, I'm not sure if my baby liked that. They were kung fu fighting in there, they were doing karate, they were doing all sorts of stuff. But actually, we tend to notice those movements more when we are relaxed because all of these muscles are relaxed. There's more space for your baby to be able to move. And because you're calm, because you're very much focused on in your body instead of in your brain and your mind if you're working, then this can make a really big difference to how much you notice it. So what else can you do to make sure that your baby is okay? Mention to your midwife if you're concerned at any point. You're not a burden. That's exactly what they're there for, to be able to walk you through your pregnancy, to be able to support you with any of your medical concerns. Obviously, you'll be doing the basic things like no alcohol, no smoking, making sure you've still got moderate exercise and that you're still being able to move well, whether that's through yoga or some other means, and also that you're eating well. And so there's this myth that you have to eat for 2 or 3 or 4, depending on how many babies you're carrying. But really, you only need an extra 200 to 300 calories from your 3rd trimester. But those also need to be useful calories. So don't just go filling up with all the chocolate eclairs, which I would say is probably what I would do. But make sure that you have lots of goodness going in there as well, so that your baby has the building blocks that they need to be healthy and to be strong. And don't be afraid to mention if you're genuinely worried, is my baby going to be okay? Maybe you have had previous miscarriages or previous stillbirths, or maybe you know of people who have. And that can be a really big fear. And actually in the last 2 years, 2 of my mums who I worked with for hypnobirthing came to me only after the baby was there and said, I was really petrified that something was going to happen, because they each had a friend who had lost a baby to a stillbirth, and so they were very, very worried. But also to know that even if you do have reduced movements, if you are quick to make sure that you speak to your midwife, that you get that follow-up scan, then often those babies can be looked after very, very well, even if that means being delivered at an earlier date. So please don't worry if you think you're the only person worrying about, is your baby going to be okay? You're not. It's just that other people are also scared to be able to talk about it. So open up and allow yourself to have a safe space and a confidant to be able to talk that through. Number 2, this one is talked about a little bit more, but people tend to like to gloss over it. How will you manage the pain of childbirth? Is it painful? How will you manage the pain, and will you lose your shit? So this is something that comes up often. Sometimes even for mums who have come through the hypnobirthing course, they have that little wobble at the end. How will I cope? How will I do this? And if they've never pushed their bodies before, if they haven't been marathon runners or mountaineers or gymnasts or dancers or anything that really helps them to push their body through, and even if they have, then there are times you will really worry, how am I going to manage this? How will I cope? And the first thing is that we have learned through the years over and over again that childbirth is painful, that childbirth is excruciating, that it's worrying, that it's all of these different things. And the reality is it can be, but it doesn't have to be. And so the more that you can help to reprogram your subconscious mind, which is the driving force of most of what you do, 90% or so of what you do comes from your subconscious mind. It's not the part that said just now, I'm going to go and watch Sophia at 12:45. It's the deeper part that has everything that you've ever seen, read, thought about, been told. Everything is stored away in that subconscious mind like a database. And so we refer back into that mind to be able to pull forward what we think is going to happen. And that then dictates how you respond, whether you go into a panic or whether you're calm. And so in hypnobirthing, and to an extent in prenatal yoga, we help you to reprogram that subconscious mind, to fill it with all the good stuff, all the positive birth stories, so that you can begin to understand and relax into, first of all, that even if your birth plan goes out of the window, even if there's a total curveball and you get nowhere near the birth that you want, you can still be calm and relaxed. And the more calm and relaxed you are, the better it is. The easier the labour will be, the more comfortable the labour will be, and the more that you will feel that you have given your best and that you were able to welcome your baby in a way that felt good for you. So don't worry about how you will manage the pain. Start to tackle ways to train your mind, to train your body, so that when any kind of stressful situation arises, instead of going into a, oh my God, total tailspin and freak out, you can actually come to a, okay, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. And you will start to follow the rhythm of the hypnobirth breathing that you have been trained in. There's some very, very specific techniques. We teach lots of them in yoga. A lot of them are originated in yoga, which is not surprising because it's all to do with the breath. But there's many different techniques with many different names, some of which are actually the same. So find your hypnobirthing school. I teach the Wise Hippo, and I also teach many other variations of all of the different schools I have learned over the years. And so find what works for you and stick with it, because the more that you can bring your focus inward, that you can let go of everything that's happening out there, the white coats if you're in hospital, the beeping, the machines if you're in hospital, just any kind of fear that you've got there, just being able to release and come back to your breath. Now, that might sound very glib to say, oh, just come back to your breath, just breathe, it'll all be fine on the day. But the fact is, the more that you practice these techniques now, hypnobirthing isn't just something you're going to rock up in the day, hey, I'm going to do hypnobirthing, yay, go me. It's not going to be like that. Hypnobirthing is something that you do now, and you practice, you practice, you practice, you practice, you practice, and trust me, it is a joy to practice because it's relaxation. It's lovely breath work, all of which makes you feel good, makes you feel connected to your baby, helps you sleep better, helps you feel better. Why would anybody not want to do that? And so you are reconditioning your mind, reconditioning your body so that you don't lose it on the day. And even if for a moment you do start to lose it, we can get you back because you've got all of these tools in your toolbox. And hopefully you'll also have your birth partner with you who will also have all of these tools in his toolbox. So you've got plenty to support you if you train your mind and if you train your body. So you wouldn't just rock up to a marathon and go, hey, I think I'll run a marathon today. Oh, what training have you done? None. Oh, how far can you run? I don't know. You know, we need to train, we need to prepare. And yes, our body can do it. And maybe that sounds like I'm contradicting myself because your body is more than capable of giving birth. But maybe you could run a marathon without any training, but why would you take the risk? Would you sleep the night before? I certainly wouldn't. So just knowing that you can give yourself that training, give yourself that practice so that all of these things come as complete second nature, and you will automatically go into feeling good, to feeling calm, to feeling relaxed, to feeling connected, to knowing that you are in control and that you can make the right choices so that you and your baby have the right birth on the day. So that's only number 2. What's number 3? Stress. So often mums who are pregnant don't like to talk about stress. They already have the mum guilt that somehow they are letting their baby down if they are stressed at work. They are letting their baby down if they're driving for too long, if they're sedentary for too long, if they're sitting about for too long. They're letting their baby down if they aren't doing anything specific to bond with their baby, if they're not really thinking about it. And for many people, stress, if we look at the main causes of stress in life, moving house is one of them. Just about, I would say 80% of first-time mums that I know move house right before they have their baby or immediately after. So moving house, whether you are really excited about it and it all goes really smoothly, it is stressful because you've always got parts that you're thinking about and there's lots that is out of your control. Is the seller even going to let you have it at the end of the day? And so moving house is one of them. Job stress is another. It can put stress and strain on a relationship, probably in a way less so this year because we've had COVID. But if you're a young couple and you're pregnant and maybe your partner still wants to go out, he's still living a normal life and you're kind of at home going, well, I'm not drinking and I don't want to go there and I don't want to do this, then it can feel stressful. And so mums then worry about the impact of stress on the baby because they're told over and over, try not to be too stressed. But what I would say to you is that even if you are stressed, you can very quickly take back control by feeling calm and relaxed. And one of the things that really stuck in my mind from my prenatal yoga teacher training was one of the trainers said to me that when she was pregnant with her son, and this was many, many years ago, that she'd had some kind of polyp in her ear and it had burst and it had been quite dramatic. There'd been blood and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, all turned out to be fine. And when her baby was born, baby was completely fine. And years and years and years later, he started to get really freaked out about something. And when they tried to trace back to what it was, he was able to bring up in his mind that this had happened when he was still in utero, when he was still in the womb, and that he'd been really worried about what had happened. And so what my prenatal yoga teacher trainer said to me was always say to your mums, if they're stressed, if they're worried, if there's a big event, if there's touch wood, if there's a mini bump in the car, if something happens that you are stressed about, if there's a bereavement, if there's anything that makes you really worried, always just tell your baby afterwards, everything's okay. Now that might seem really odd, but if you've got a little pair of ears in here, which you do from beyond 16 weeks, their ears are well developed, their auditory system continues to develop. And so if there's somebody there who only is hearing half the story, why wouldn't we tell them everything's okay? And so if you're ever in a really stressful situation, you can just sit, stroke your bump, whether that's up and down, hand from the top, whether you're just circling around, whichever hand feels most natural. Just be able to let your baby know everything's okay. Mum got really stressed. I got really stressed today. I was shouting. There was noise. I'm sorry. Everything's okay. It's fine. You're safe. I'm here for you. And sometimes that's all they need to hear, because how nice would it be for someone to say that to you? If you've been upset by something and somebody can just come in and tell you everything's okay. And so start to parent them right now in the way that you would parent them once they were in the room. If they were shouting and they were there, you would reassure them it was okay. So reassure them now. And if you have things like grief, if you have bereavement, also being able to Let your baby know that this is a normal part of life. You know, you're already giving them a huge amount of emotional intelligence by being able to talk to them and be able to explain to them, I feel upset today because, and again, you might think, oh, that's a bit weird. Why would I do that? But why wouldn't you do that? Because if you are upset, if you are feeling emotional, if you're shouty, if you're crying, if you're really happy, then your baby is feeling it. Might not be feeling the words that you're saying, but they're feeling the emotion, because those emotions create different chemicals in the body. So we have more cortisol, the stress hormone, more adrenaline, the fight or flight hormone, when we are stressed. And when we are feeling all cozied up and we're with our partner and we're having a nice massage and we're watching a film together, you have lots of oxytocin, you have lots of serotonin, and they're the ones that feel good. So your baby knows whether there's stress because they can feel the stress. And they know when there's lots of love and everything's lovely because they feel that too. And so just being able to let them know, I've been stressed, I've been worried, this is what I've done about it. Because you're already helping them to be an amazing human being. And what parent doesn't want for that to happen? So number 4, will you lose your identity? This is a bit of one that doesn't get talked about, isn't it? Oh, you're so selfish. Imagine thinking about yourself. No. Worry number 1 was, will your baby be okay? So, will you lose your identity when you become a mum? I do my best when people come to my postnatal classes, my mum and baby yoga or baby massage, to not say, hey, this is Katie and she is this is Erin's mum. I do my best to say, this is Katie and this is Katie's baby. She's called Erin. Because if you do it the other way around, she's Erin's mum. Instantly, she's just gone. You know, I didn't used to say when they would walk into prenatal, oh, here's a pregnant woman, by the way, she's called Katie. You automatically give people their identity. And so, will you lose your identity? It depends on how much you put into keeping it and how much you automatically shift. So, a bit strange for me, I became an instant stepmom, if you like, to my stepdaughter when she was 4 years old. And so I didn't have the 9-month pregnancy to get used to the fact that she was going to be there. And then all of a sudden, my life went from, I think in the 6 months before her dad and I had been together, I had been to Australia, I'd been to New York for Christmas, I'd been to Lanzarote for a month. I was doing all of my work from travelling, and I was doing everything on the laptop wherever I was. And then suddenly, here I was, I would find myself in the play park on a Saturday afternoon going, how has this happened? And all the clothes that I used to have, or the shoes that I used to feel comfy wearing, I was like, well, I'm not going to wear them to go and run around the park. And so very quickly you can find that things change and things feel different. But do you lose your identity? You don't have to. You can still find time to do the things that you love to do. And yes, when your baby is very young and you are their whole world, you know, literally when your baby is very young, they can't see further than your face. And so expecting them to want to be interested in something over there or over there, unless it's black and white, very bold. That's why you see lots of black and white images for babies, because they can focus on that much easier. And so how do you retain a part of yourself? Well, maybe for the initial period, it's all give, especially if you're breastfeeding, especially if you're at home alone a lot and your partner or your husband, your wife is away working. Then yes, you might find that everything is all consuming. But also you've been working to make this amazing little baby for 9 months, and the chances are you're going to want it to be all consuming and you're going to want to be completely there for them and nothing else. But beyond that, you don't have to give up every part of yourself. You can still find the time, make the time to do little bits of things that you like. People joke about having a tag team, but sometimes a tag team does need to exist where you're at home with baby for a while and then you go out to do something different, even if it's just a coffee for a friend. And I've got lots of mums who'll say to me, oh, it's really difficult. I felt so guilty because they know that someone else has seen them, but they don't have their baby with them. It's like, oh, I've come out without my baby. It's like, you haven't left them at home on their own on the sofa. You know, they're just creating a bit of space for them again. And as I said at the very start of this video, you need to be able to top yourself up first. If you're at home feeling resentful, no one's ever going to talk about feeling resentful with their baby. At least it's going to take a long time before they get there. But if you're at home with your baby and you're thinking, why am I the only person doing this? My husband's gone out to work like normal. He's gone off in his suit. He's driven the car. Oh, he's gone for a run now. Oh, he said he'll be back at 8:30 because he's going to play badminton or football. And you are at home with the baby. There's this kind of belief, and it is changing, and it's a good thing that it's changing, this kind of belief that when dads are looking after the babies, they're babysitting, and when mums are looking after the babies, well, what else would they be doing? And so if that's the life that you want, and that's the style of parenting that you want, then have that. But if you want more, if you need more, then be able to have those conversations now with your partner. And it is definitely changing. I know lots of dads who actually are the stay-at-home dads, and they absolutely love it. And I know lots of dads who'll take their babies pre-COVID down to the pub and have 1 pint in the afternoon, and all the dads have got the babies. You know, that wasn't a thing that used to happen. When I was little, if I was out with my dad, I'd be on the golf course. We'd just be, you know, running around with the other children. And so for dads actually to be sat together and just giving mum a break, giving you a bit of space to go back out and do what you need to do, it could be an amazing thing. And so yes, parts of you will change, parts of you will grow. And I think if you're already pregnant and this has been a much sought after baby, you will find a way to make that the most amazing experience. And trust me, you'll become a different identity. I'm a different person in the 6 years that I've been stepmom to Tilly. And she's not with us all of the time. She lived with us for 50% of the time for more than a year. And now she's with us for holidays. But it is such an amazing experience to be able to do. And I can slip in and out of identities. I can do the whole mumsy thing when she's here. I still go into the shops and find myself buying pants for her even when she's not here. You know, all of these things are just a process, and a process that you grow into. Number 5 of the pregnancy worries that nobody likes to talk about. Money. Nobody likes to be the one in the room saying, I don't know if we can afford it. Because somebody next to you might be like, oh, money's no issue to us. It's just no issue. My husband's parents have bought us everything brand new. It's no issue. And so it can be embarrassing. It can be triggering. It can be scary. Maybe you have been the person who's been the bigger earner in your household. Maybe you've earned a much smaller wage. Maybe you are a little bit petrified as to what it's going to feel like to be a kept woman. Are you going to get an allowance? How's it going to work? Are you going to go back to work? Will you want to go back to work? If there's an elephant in the room with your partner now about finance, about money, about what's going to happen when this baby arrives, have those conversations now. And yes, things might change. People might feel different. Maybe your husband or your partner, your wife is very proud to be the person who makes all of the money. Maybe they'll resent being the person who makes all of the money and who's being relied on all the time. No, have that conversation. If you need to start banking money now so you've got a nice little stash in the corner, start to do that. If you need to start making more, start to do that. If you need to sell stuff, get rid of it. If you need to buy secondhand, buy secondhand. If you need to put up an advert saying, I need XYZ, who's got it? Ask. You'll be amazed at how many people have got stuff. Yes, baby products move on really quickly, but baby grows are baby grows. Baby vests are baby vests, and baby t-shirts are baby t-shirts. And although they might not be particularly expensive as an individual item, when you start to buy lots of it, and if you have a real sprouter, it just grows really quickly, you can very quickly find yourself needing to buy more and more. So don't feel afraid to ask those questions. Have the conversations that you need to with your boss about maternity pay. You might have the full intention of going back to work full-time afterwards. You might want to broach the subject of working part-time to understand what that might look like. And also, you might want to start costing nurseries nearby, finding out what the council-funded places are, just doing some early considerations as to how that would work. Because the last thing that you need is to be potentially, maybe not always, a sleep-deprived person trying to have a conversation with somebody else who's sleep-deprived and holding down a full-time job and trying to work out what you're going to do with the finance. Have those conversations now. They will make you feel so much better. They'll make your partner feel so much better. Even if you have to sit down together and really come up with some solutions, then you'll find a way to make it work. Know what kind of money you might want to have set aside for things like baby classes, for things like mum and baby classes, for anything that you specifically still want to do for yourself. Have an idea of what some of those extra costs might be and be able to factor them in. So I would often find with mums that they would come to my classes early on, once their baby was here, and then their maternity pay would drop down. And so then they wouldn't feel they could justify being able to come, because to them it felt like they were coming out to a class, they were doing something fun while their husband was at work having to pay for it. So have those conversations. Do you have a big-hearted, generous husband, wife, partner who loves to just know that you are looked after, that you are happy, that you feel good? Or do you have somebody that's a bit, how's this going to work? Well, I'm at work all day. Have the conversation. Don't be afraid to pat the elephant in the room, to go up beside it, stroke its stroke its trunk. That was not a metaphor, by the way, or pun. Just be with the elephant and have the conversations that feel difficult, because you will feel so much better for it. So in short, the 5 pregnancy worries that nobody likes to talk about. Is your baby going to be okay? Find a person to have those conversations with. Do what you need to do with a midwife to feel better. How will you manage the pain of labour? Will you lose your shit? Not if you do what you need to do now to reprogram your mind to feel more positive about it, whether that's prenatal yoga, whether that's hypnobirthing, or anything else that you find. I teach both of those in the prenatal snug. Grief, stress, how is that impacting on your baby? Well, if you do the things that you need to do to be able to calm yourself back down quickly, to be able to let your baby know that everything is okay, and do whatever else you need to do so that you feel good with it. When you feel good, your baby will feel good, literally. Lose identity. You don't have to. You might morph into a slightly different identity, which I'm sure you'll love as well. And if you don't, there's always support available. There's always somebody else. Finding this whole mum thing really difficult. And so you don't have to lose your identity, and you please don't feel like you're ever on your own. And money, no job. How's that going to work? Have the conversation with your partner. Sit down, get clear with your finances, the costs that are going to fall away when you're at home, or the costs that are going to get added on if you're at nursery, and making sure that if you do work, is your money that you're making from your job just covering the nursery fees or the childminder fees, or have you got more on top? And even if they're just cancelling each other out, some people will still prefer to do that, at least for 1 or 2 days a week, because that really helps them to feel more normal, to feel like they're still functioning, to feel like there's not then an additional stress or strain on their relationship with their partner or husband. And so do what you need to do to have those conversations, and don't be afraid to open up and to share. I'm always here if anybody wants to chat. And you can find out more about the prenatal snug if that's something that you're interested in at sophiahansen.com services. It's a place where we've got prenatal yoga, we've got hypnobirthing, we've got confidence building, and we're building a community of women who want to be able to enjoy their pregnancies and have the best birth possible. Now on Friday, I also have a mini workshop coming up. It's a totally free workshop, 5:45 till 7 o'clock, which is all about your pregnancy worries and what to do with them. So I will be taking you through a calm breathing technique for labour and how to maximise your own emotional well-being for the rest of your pregnancy, as well as a couple of other things. So I'll drop the Facebook group link underneath for that if you would love to come along and invite a pregnant friend, because the more the merrier. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day. I'd love to hear your comments, so please do pop anything down below, and I will talk to you all soon. Lots of love. Bye bye for now.